What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another video. I'm back home, back to the blue background. No longer have any of the fun of a college dorm room, but I do have a lot of food, so I'm kind of happy about that. Anyways, today we're going to be voting for Pro Bowl players. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on the offense for now. I will do another video on the defense later. I have to extend it out, make sure I get as much content as possible out of this. But for now, we're looking at the Pro Bowl ballot for the NFL. We're going to be picking all the guys for the offense and just seeing how it goes. And frankly, I mean, I've already filled out a Pro Bowl ballot earlier off screen just to test it out just because I wanted to. And frankly, I'm not very impressed with how they're doing it this year. Usually they have it so you can order it by statistics. You can kind of filter it. This year, not so much. Yeah, I just don't like the way it's set up. I mean, look at how the screen looks, and it's just a very weird system. And you have 6 votes this year. I don't remember what it normally is. I always felt like it was 4 for quarterbacks. Maybe it was 6. They were positioned at 6, by the way, this year. So you have to vote for 6 guards, 6 centers, 6 tackles. I don't think it was that way in the past. I think there were parts where you only had 2 votes or 4 votes per position at times. I know you had 6 for receivers, I'm pretty sure. But other than that, I think you had 4 or 2 votes for different positions. I'm not a huge fan of this way, especially because, like, 6 votes, like, some of them are probably throwaway votes that people will just make because they have someone they recognize, just a name they recognize. And they might put more value on one vote than on another vote. And having them pick 6 players, it kind of devalues it a little bit. Now, obviously, they're not actually playing the Pro Bowl this year, but they are going to kind of virtually announce it, I guess. And I still like the fact that they're having Pro Bowl voting because, to me, when it comes to analyzing a player's legacy, I know Pro Bowls are not a huge thing because a lot of times they're popularity contests. But for players like Patrick Mahomes, who are pretty young, or Deshaun Watson, who are still kind of building their legacies, and at quarterback, there's only so many awards you can win per year. So a Pro Bowl for a quarterback means a lot more than, say, a Pro Bowl for a wide receiver. So I do think it's important they still have Pro Bowl voting. All right, so we're going to start off here with the quarterbacks. And this is pretty easy to me. Patrick Mahomes is number 1. He's my early MVP candidate. That's not even early in this part of the year. It's actually getting pretty late. We're going into week 13 now. I'm taking Mahomes. Easy first overall pick here. Russell Wilson, 2. Aaron Rodgers, 3. Flip them in any order you want. I think it's those 2 guys are the only ones close to Mahomes in this MVP race. I don't think either of them are going to catch him unless Mahomes just had a very bad game somewhere down the line. Rodgers really isn't that far back statistically, but it feels like Mahomes has all the momentum. And frankly, a lot of guys are pushing for the younger players in the league right now to have a larger impact on these award races. So I don't see any way that Rodgers is going to be the one to win it, especially because he already has 2 MVPs. I think this is going to be clearly Patrick Mahomes' year again. Garrett plays up here. Tom Brady's really having a pretty good year if you think about it. I mean, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. It's more interceptions they had last year with the Patriots. It's also 4 more touchdowns already. I think Brady – I'm going to come back and revisit Brady in a second. But I know Deshaun Watson is going to be a Pro Bowler for me. I'm voting him 100%. Looking at the other guys here on the list, I mean, Justin Herbert jumped out to me. I know a lot of people are saying he hasn't made the jump yet to being an elite quarterback, but he stands out to me. Kyler Murray has 10 rushing touchdowns already this year. So he really has 29 touchdowns overall. Derek Carr's having a good year. Even if the numbers aren't there, he's having a really good year. Ryan Tannehill's a guy I like a lot. Ben Roethlisberger I like quite a bit this year. Anyone below that line, not so much. I have 2 votes left. This is not going to be good. Because you got Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Derek Carr, Tannehill, Roethlisberger, Herbert, and Brady. Those are the guys I'm kind of choosing between here at the end. This is tough, honestly. This is tougher than I thought it was going to be when I sat down to do the video. I forget who I got voted for the first time around. I'm going to give it to Herbert just because I like the idea of a young rookie quarterback getting in here. I also think he has – you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. I'm taking Kyler Murray. All the rushing yards on the ground so far. I think he's pacing for just around 1,000 yards this year rushing. Like I said, already has 10 rushing touchdowns. He deserves it here. And I got 1 more. I'm taking Ryan Tannehill. You know what? I think Brady's got the better year statistically. I know you could also put Josh Allen potentially in this conversation, but Ryan Tannehill makes fewer mistakes than Tom Brady and Josh Allen. And I'll be honest with you, Brady has looked very old to me at points this year. He doesn't have ball control of the offense. It seems very apparent about that in Tampa Bay right now. And with Josh Allen in Buffalo, he had about a 4-game stretch where he was not good. He was bad for 4 games this year. So I have trouble taking him. Tannehill had 1 or 2 games this year where it wasn't that good. I still think he's more efficient than Josh Allen, even though Josh Allen has more of a rushing game involved in his offensive arsenal. I'm sticking with Tannehill, though. So my quarterback picks are Mahomes, Wilson, Watson, Rodgers, Murray, and Tannehill. The running back situation is very weird this year, by the way, because usually we see about maybe, I want to say 8 to 10 running backs really stand out. I don't think there are 8 to 10 running backs standing out this year. There are 2. That's Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, and I'll say 3, Nick Chubb, because Nick Chubb has missed time, and he's still playing phenomenal. I mean, he missed a couple of weeks here, and he's 6th in the NFL in rushing yards. I mean, that's fantastic for a guy who missed time. Kenny Drake, I'm pretty sure, has also missed time this year, and he's also up here at 7th. I'm going to give it to James Robinson. I'm going to give one vote to James Robinson just because from what he's done as a rookie this year has been incredible. I like what he's done so far. I think he's one of the few pieces you can actually keep around in Jacksonville when they get through this rebuild. He's sticking around for the long term, in my opinion. Alvin Kamara never has the rushing yards, but when you combine the rushing and receiving yards, put them together, the yards from scrimmage are always going to be there. Gotta say, it's a disappointing year for Miles Sanders and Ezekiel Elliott. I would expect more from those guys this season, but obviously they haven't produced. My final vote, Ronald Jones has gained about 200 yards in one game against Carolina, so I'm not taking him because most production came from just one game there. If you take out those 200 yards, he's far lower down the list. I'm really tempted to vote Antonio Gibson. He's going to be a great runner. I like what Antonio Gibson has done so far behind a controversial Washington line. So I like what he's done. I like Kenyon Drake. I like Josh Jacobs. I can only pick one. I'm going to take Josh Jacobs just because I think he means more to the Raiders than Drake does to the Cardinals. In a different ballot, I might take Drake over Jacobs in this situation. Well, there's 3 easy options here for me at wide receiver. I think DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, and DeAndre Hopkins are all just locks. I'm not even going to consider not putting them here. They absolutely deserve it. A guy like Will Fuller is having a really good year. He got suspended, though, for 6 games, so we can basically cross him out. He's not going to play the rest of the year. Looking around here, this is probably the toughest position to vote just 6 players for because of how many good players there are in the NFL, how many good receivers there are in the NFL. It really hurts to leave a guy like Julio Jones off. I'm not a big Julio Jones fan. I mean, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers guy, so I always used to vote for Antonio Brown over Julio Jones in these kind of situations. Obviously, now we know Antonio Brown. I would not do that again. But at the time, I would take Antonio Brown over Julio Jones in a lot of these wide receiver conversations. Jones has missed so much time this year. I have to leave him out. I hope he kind of gets in this year just because I do like Julio Jones. I do like this game. I think it would be kind of disrespectful to not have him in because he's still performing very well when Atlanta's offense is struggling. Other guys who I expect to do better this year, A.J. Brown not doing so well, even though he's 8 touchdowns, which is something that you should probably keep an eye on. Mike Evans, the 11 touchdowns are very eye-popping. I'm really tempted to vote him. I'm a big Mike Evans fan. I've always thought he's been better than other players in my class, including Odell Beckham Jr. But really, just 613 yards. It's kind of rough when you have receivers who are already over 1,000. I'm taking Terry McLaurin. Him and DK Metcalf to me at this point, I mean, they've been fantastic. He doesn't score nearly as much, but Washington's offense is not nearly as high octane as Seattle's at this point, especially because you're comparing Alex Smith and Dwayne Haskins to Russell Wilson. That leaves me with 2 votes. This is rough. I mean, I'm going to take Devontae Adams just because he's basically everything for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I mean, without Devontae Adams, I don't know where Aaron Rodgers would be. He'd still be a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. But Aaron Rodgers relies on this guy. That's why he's got 11 touchdowns already this year. So I'm putting him up there. And now my final vote, I'm eliminating Mike Evans. Even though I really want to vote him, I'm eliminating Mike Evans just for the sake of this, just because I need to really focus this down to a couple of players. To me, Justin Jefferson pops out, Stephon Diggs, and Keenan Allen. Those are the 3 guys that I'm looking at right now. Keenan Allen has the most touchdowns. Diggs has the most yards. If you split the difference on both of those, you get Justin Jefferson, who has the fewest receptions, but he's been a home run hitter this year. He's a rookie guy. I really like him coming to LSU. I don't know why he fell so far he did in the draft. That was kind of ridiculous to me. I thought he had a great year at LSU with Joe Burrow. I think a lot of the concerns people had about him were overblown. I'm picking Justin Jefferson here. I'm putting the rookie in. Oh, boy, we get to vote for 6 fullbacks. I didn't even know there were more than 6 fullbacks left in the NFL at this point, but let's just give the obligatory Kyle Juszczyk pick. Now, what are we going to do after that? Anthony Sherman, that's another name I recognize. I'm not going to lie, I don't know nearly enough as I should about the fullbacks. I do recognize a couple of these guys. Well, I recognize actually all of these guys, but at the same point, they've really removed the fullback position from the NFL to some degree. There are some systems that you still use him as a blocker or as a Swiss Army knife, like, for instance, the 49ers. But it's really getting taken out of the gameplay. I know that the Lions use it. I'm surprised they don't have Jason Kabinda in here for the Lions. He was a former linebacker at Penn State. He's now playing fullback for them. I'm surprised he's not up here. I'll take Derek Watson, a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. That brings us up to 4. Now we got 2 left. Take Ricard, just because respect for the Baltimore Ravens. And we'll close it off here. And we'll go on to tight ends. I might just cut that out of the video. That was bad. All right. Tight ends. And we can already see there's a huge gap here between Travis Kelsey and the next best tight end in the NFL at this point. That's mostly because Zach Ertz has been really hurt this year. I think age is getting to him a little bit, and that's contributed to the injuries he suffered. The other guy we usually would see up here, George Kittle, obviously he's missed most of the year. He's probably going to miss the remainder of the year. And if I was him, I wouldn't even come back for the rest of the season because the 49ers, well, they're only a game behind the Cardinals. I think even if they were to win out, it'd be very difficult for them to make the playoffs. And so if I was Kittle, I'd still work my way back and try to get back in. But at the same point, if the 49ers clearly aren't going to make the playoffs, I just wouldn't come back this year. This is really kind of a down year for these guys. I mean, Darren Waller had, I think, 1,000 yards last year. He's nowhere near that this year. Mark Andrews did better last year. This is not looking like a great season for tight ends. Dallas Goedert's another guy I have a lot of respect for, but he's been hurt, really hasn't gotten a chance to shine this year, despite Zach Ertz being out for a lot of time. Jared Cook's another one, not having nearly a good year this season, as in 2019. Tyler Higbee's right there with him. And this is really not a great year for receivers. Austin Hooper is struggling. I think he's missed time as well. Well, that really makes decision-making a little bit easier, though. I mean, it really comes down to, for me, this first line, Mike Gesicki and Mark Andrews. It's those guys I'm talking about here. Noah Fant's not working with a great quarterback, so I understand why he's thrown down here. He's another guy who I would have hoped would have played better this season. I'm taking Darren Waller. I'm taking TJ Hawkinson. Do I take Rob Gronkowski? That's something I didn't expect to do this year. Vote Rob Gronkowski to the Pro Bowl. Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to look at him around here. I mean, there's not many better options. I mean, Evan Ingram drops a lot of balls. Hayden Hurst really hasn't been everything I expect him to be. I'm taking Mark Andrews because he has 6 touchdowns, so he deserves a spot here. I won't overlook that. You can make an argument that Hunter Henry deserves it more. I think he does. I'll take Hunter Henry as well. Mike Gesicki's going to have to wait another year, although I think Gesicki could be a Pro Bowler in the future if Tua turns out to be something really special, which I think he will be eventually. But for now, it's Gronk. All right, now I get to show off how much I do or don't know about offensive lines. Let's see if I can figure this out. Immediately, David Bakhtiari steps out to me as a guy who really deserves this. I mean, left tackle-wise, he's always been a consummate pro. He's always been one of the best pass blockers in the NFL. I know PFF will certainly agree with me on that part, so I'll put him up here. Garrett Bulls has had a resurgence this year. I mean, this guy, not even a resurgence. He was never that good to begin with. He's been great this year. Like, this is a guy who, that's why he agreed to an extension recently for a lot of money. This guy was going to be out of the NFL in 6 years based on how he played the first couple of seasons of his career. And now he's one of the best tackles in the NFL. So good for him. Great to see him rebounding so well. It's like Armstead from the Saints. I think he missed this past game, but he overall has had a very solid season once again. He's been a Pro Bowler the last couple of years too, so it's not like this guy's coming out of nowhere. We already know he's an established pro. There are actually a lot of good tackles here. I'm kind of struggling because they lumped the left tackles and the right tackles together until you pick 6. It's difficult because you got Mekhi Becton here, you got Brown, you got Conklin. You've got a lot of guys who are really good. Eric Fisher's having a solid year, I think. Dwayne Brown's up here as well. Dwayne Brown's always been good. It's tough. I mean, there are a lot of good players here. Lane Johnson, he's not finishing the rest of the year, though, so I really shouldn't vote for him because he's done for the season. Ryan Ramczyk, he's here. I mean, there's so many good tackles in the NFL right now. Trent Williams is another guy who deserves it. Wills and Wirfs are having decent rookie years. It's hard to pick from all these guys, man. All right, so upon further review, I'm going to give it to Jack Conklin. I'm also taking Trent Williams. And where's my last selection? I know I just had him a second ago. I am taking Ryan Ramczyk as well, even though this hasn't been his best year. And that leaves out, like I said, quite a few guys who I think were deserving a Pro Bowl bids. Wirfs is one of them for sure. I know Mitchell Schwartz has been injured this year. I don't think he's even up here for the Chiefs, but ordinarily he's a guy who I put in automatically. Brown's still up here, and I was close to voting for him. Mekhi Becton's having a good rookie year. There are a lot of really good players here, and I had to pass up on a bunch of them. But this is kind of what you get for lumping left tackles and right tackles together in one group. Guards, well, this is kind of easy to start off at the very least. We're going to take both Cleveland guards once I find the other one. Where are you? There you are. All right, so we got Teller done. We got Bitonio done. Now it's just a question of what I do with the next 4 votes. To me, I really don't care where the next 4 go because I think the Cleveland guards deserve it most out of most all of these guys right now. There are some good guards in the league, don't get me wrong, but I think I picked the 2 that I really believe in. Of course, we're just going to quickly click Zach Martin. And just ignore the fact that I overlooked him there for an instant because Zach Martin, to me, is a future Hall of Famer at guard. We even saw him play a little tackle earlier this season because he's capable of moving outside because he's so good and so multifaceted. I'm also taking Ali Marpet and Quentin Nelson for obvious reasons. Even though it's more of a name pick, he hasn't been as good this year as that dominant this year he has been in the past. I also think a little bit of that is the lack of the running game they have. And the change of quarterback, there's a lot of issues that go into here. I don't think it's all on Quentin Nelson. Also taking Ali Marpet, because he's had a very good year. I know he's missed a couple of games here, but, I mean, he's really the best player on that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. He's somewhat underperformed this year. I don't want to overlook him and his accomplishments just because the line in general isn't playing that well. And let's be honest, quite a few players have missed time this year. You might as well just reward the top guys anyways. Maybe this last selection is too much of a name pick as well, but I'm going with Joe Thuney. I mean, the Patriots did everything they could to keep this guy on their roster this offseason. And for obvious reasons, he's one of the best guards in the NFL. I'm adding him to this list, even though maybe alongside Cam Newton, it's been more of a struggle for that offensive line, just because the quarterback style from Brady to Newton is such a change. You have to adapt quite a bit throughout that process. But now we're on to the center spot, and this is also going to be kind of difficult to pick 6 guys at this position. Right off the bat, I'm adding Ryan Kelly, and I'm adding Lindsley because these 2 guys have been very good this year. Kelly is a little bit more of a name pick. I think Lindsley is the guy who has really outperformed expectations this year. I think he's actually outperformed Bakhtiari in terms of where he ranks among interior offensive line compared to where Bakhtiari ranks among tackles right now. So this is a pick based on production. He deserves this, and this is not a guy who I would have expected going into the year to be a top center in the league. We got Ryan Kelly, Corey Lindsley. Who else are we taking here? I'm taking Marquise Pouncey. I know he hasn't been as good the past 2 years as he was before that. He's probably no longer an all-pro caliber center, but I'm a Steelers fan. You have to forgive me here. One guy I'm always going to pound the table for is Marquise Pouncey. I'm also adding J.C. Treader. I mean, the offensive lines in the AFC North are kind of stacked interior-wise. I mean, if it wasn't for injuries or Marshall Yonder retiring, they might have the best offensive lines of any division in the NFL. I'm also adding Rodney Hudson. This is a guy who's been very consistent the past couple of years. He's been right there with guys like Alex Mack, Jason Kelsey, and Marquise Pouncey in terms of honors that they've earned over the past couple of seasons or the past decade. He's one of the best centers in the NFL, and he's perennially in these kind of discussions. That leaves me with one more pick, and it comes down to Frank Ragnall or Jason Kelsey. Kelsey's been an all-pro, first-team all-pro the last 3 years, I believe. So he's been dominating that position for a couple of seasons now. When we turn around, I think Frank Ragnall's actually been better this year. Kelsey, I mean, he's working with a lot with Carson Wentz. Like, there's a lot of issues back there. So I understand maybe his production has dropped because of that. But for now, I can't separate those. I'm sure he'll still make the Pro Bowl just based on his name. But for now, I think Ragnall's actually had a better season despite also having his own issues in Detroit with the offense and everything not running so smoothly. So here are my offensive selections for the 2021 NFL Pro Bowl. You can see here I picked all the spots, even though I'll admit I'm not probably the best guy to pick fullbacks for Pro Bowl positions, but I've done it anyways. Here are all the players I've gone with. The 6 centers are actually pretty good. I think center, tackle, wide receiver were some of the strongest positions this year. Quarterback is always strong. I think running back and tight end were some of the weaker ones this year, just because the tight end production hasn't been there. I mean, look at the drop-off between Kelsey and everyone else. And that running back, you do have guys like Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook who are killing it right now. But I think there is a drop-off there as well. So this is obviously the first part of a 2-part series. I will be picking defensive Pro Bowlers here, and you'll see that video probably coming up in the next couple of days. So please stay tuned, subscribe, click the bell icon so you can be updated whenever I post new videos. So please feel free to scroll down a little bit, see some of my former content, especially from the past couple of months. Before that, I had some video series that didn't do so well, and that stuff's very old at this point. So I would ask you kind of focus a little bit on the more recent work. I think you'll see that's a lot better, a lot higher quality, especially that I've been working with Adobe Premiere recently. So feel free to go check those out, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next episode.